This video is made for entertainment purposes only. My name is Marcus Webb, and I killed a Sasquatch on Route 66. Well, not killed. Not exactly. But I hit one. And what happened in the 47 minutes after that changed everything I thought I knew about this country, about the things we hide in the dark, and about the choices we make when no one's watching. It's been 11 years since that night. 11 years of silence, of lying to my wife, of waking up at 3 a.m. drenched in sweat, seeing those eyes staring back at me through the cracked windshield. They told me I'd go to federal prison if I ever spoke about it. They told me the creature never existed. They told me to forget. But I can't forget. And now, after everything that's come out, the leaks, the congressional hearings, the grainy photos that finally made it to the press, I think it's time someone told the truth about what really happens when you find one of them on the side of the road. This is that truth. It was October 2014. Late October, the kind of cold that sneaks up on you in the high desert, where the days are still warm but the nights drop fast and hard. I was hauling a load of industrial equipment from Flagstaff to Oklahoma City. Routine run, nothing special. I'd been driving long haul for 16 years by then. I knew every truck stop, every speed trap, every lonely stretch of asphalt between the coasts. Route 66, or what's left of it, still cuts through some of the most desolate country in America. Most of the old highway's been replaced by Interstate 40, but there are sections, especially through New Mexico and the Oklahoma Panhandle, where the original road still runs parallel to the modern highway. Quiet. Empty. The kind of empty that makes you feel like you're the last man on earth. I preferred those stretches. No traffic. No cops. Just me, the hum of the engine, and whatever late-night radio station I could pull in through the static. It was around 2:30 in the morning when I crossed into the Oklahoma Panhandle. I'd been on the road for 9 hours, and I was starting to feel it, that heavy, bone-deep fatigue that creeps in when you've been staring at white lines for too long. I had another 3 hours before I'd hit my mandated rest stop, and I was determined to push through. The moon was nearly full that night, bright enough that I could see the landscape rolling past in shades of silver and shadow, endless plains, low mesas, the occasional cluster of cottonwoods hugging a dry creek bed. The road was straight, empty, hypnotic. I remember thinking about my son. He'd just turned 12. I'd missed his birthday because of this run, and I was trying to figure out how to make it up to him. Maybe take him fishing when I got back. Maybe finally teach him how to handle the rig in an empty parking lot. That's what I was thinking about when it stepped onto the road. At first, I thought it was a bear. It came out of the darkness on my right. Fast, too fast, and by the time my brain registered movement, it was already in my headlights. Massive. Upright. Moving on 2 legs. I slammed the brakes. The rig screamed, tires locked, but there was no time. 40 tons of steel doesn't stop on a dime, and I was still doing 60 when I hit it. The impact wasn't what I expected. It didn't crumple or bounce off the grill like a deer. It was solid, like hitting a wall of muscle and bone. The whole cab shuddered. My head snapped forward against the seatbelt. The windshield cracked in a spiderweb pattern, and something dark and wet sprayed across the glass. Then the rig finally stopped, half-skidded into the shoulder, engine rattling, hazard lights blinking in the dark. For a long moment, I just sat there, hands locked on the wheel, heart hammering so hard I thought I might pass out. What the hell was that? I've hit deer before. I've hit a coyote once, and an elk in Wyoming that totaled the grill. But this was different. The size. The weight. The way it had been walking upright. My hands were shaking as I unbuckled the seatbelt. I grabbed my flashlight from the door pocket and checked the mirrors. Nothing behind me. Nothing ahead. Just the empty road and the cold desert night pressing in from all sides. I should have called 911. I should have radioed dispatch. I should have done a dozen things that a rational, law-abiding truck driver is supposed to do after hitting something on the highway. But I didn't. Because part of me, some deep, instinctive part, already knew this wasn't a normal accident. I grabbed the tire iron from under the seat. My .38 revolver was locked in the toolbox in back, and I briefly considered getting it. But I didn't. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I'd need a weapon, but not a lethal weapon. Maybe I was still trying to convince myself this was just a bear, and I'd need the iron to scare it off if it was still alive. I climbed down from the cab. The air was cold and sharp, smelling of sagebrush and diesel. The only sound was the ticking of the engine cooling and the faint whistle of wind through the wire fence along the roadside. I walked slowly to the front of the rig, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. The grille was dented. Deep. The kind of dent you get from hitting something big and solid. Blood streaked the chrome, black in the flashlight beam, still wet. And then I saw it. It was lying 30 feet ahead, half in the road, half on the shoulder. At first, all I could process was size. It was enormous, 8 feet long, maybe more, sprawled on its side with one arm twisted beneath it. The body was covered in dark, matted fur, coarse and thick, and even from a distance I could see the rise and fall of its chest. It was breathing, still alive. I took a step closer, then another, tire iron raised, heart pounding so loud I could hear it in my ears. The smell hit me next. Musky, pungent, like wet dog mixed with something wilder, something ancient. It wasn't unpleasant, just strong, overpowering. I stopped about 10 feet away, flashlight trained on the creature's back. It was covered in thick, dark brown fur, almost black in the moonlight, long and shaggy around the shoulders and spine, shorter on the limbs. The arms were massive, corded with muscle, hands the size of catcher's mitts, fingers tipped with thick, blunt nails. The legs were bent at the knees, powerful thighs and calves built like a linebacker's, but longer, more ape-like. And then it moved. A low, wet groan rumbled from deep in its chest. The head lifted slightly, broad, heavy, covered in fur except for the face, which was dark-skinned, leathery, somewhere between human and ape. The brow was thick, protruding, shadowing deep-set eyes. And then those eyes opened. They locked onto me. I froze. I've looked into the eyes of a lot of animals. Deer, coyotes, even a mountain lion once, up in Montana. But this was different. There was intelligence in those eyes. Not animal cunning. Not instinct. Awareness. It knew I was there. It knew what I was. And in that moment, I knew, absolutely bone-deep knew, that I wasn't looking at an animal. I was looking at someone. The creature groaned again, softer this time, and tried to push itself up. Its right arm buckled, and it collapsed back onto the asphalt with a heavy thud. Blood pooled beneath it, dark and spreading. I should have run. Every survival instinct I had was screaming at me to get back in the cab, lock the doors, and get the hell out of there. But I didn't. Instead, I lowered the tire iron. "Hey," I said. My voice cracked. "Hey, can you hear me?" The creature's eyes tracked me as I took a cautious step forward. Breathing was labored, rasping, each exhale rattling in its chest. The blood was coming from a gash along its ribs, deep, ragged, where the grill had caught it. "I'm sorry," I said. I don't know why I said it. I didn't see you. I didn't. It made a sound. Not a growl. Not a roar. A word. Low, guttural, barely intelligible, but unmistakably deliberate. "Hurts." I nearly dropped the flashlight. You can talk?" Its eyes closed. Its head sagged back onto the pavement. "Hurts." I stood there, paralyzed, mind racing. This wasn't possible. This didn't happen. Bigfoot was a myth. A joke. A blurry photo on a tabloid cover. But here it was. Bleeding on Route 66. Speaking. And dying. I dropped the tire iron and moved closer, crouching beside it. Up close, the details were even more staggering. Knuckles scarred and calloused, fingernails worn down like a laborer's, breath smelling faintly of juniper and something earthy. This was real. Flesh and blood and pain. "Okay," I said, forcing my voice to steady. "Okay, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna." And that's when I saw the headlights. They came from the east, fast, no siren but moving with the kind of purpose that makes your stomach drop. 2 vehicles. Black SUVs. Tinted windows. No markings. They skidded to a stop 50 yards behind my rig, doors already opening before the engines cut. 4 men stepped out. Then 6. Then 8. All of them dressed in black tactical gear. Helmets. Vests. And, my blood went cold, hazmat suits underneath. The kind with sealed hoods and respirators. One of them raised a hand, gesturing sharply at me. "Sir, step away from the subject." His voice was amplified, mechanical, filtered through a speaker in his helmet. I stood slowly, hands raised, heart hammering. "I hit it," I called back. "I didn't mean to. I didn't see. Step away. Now." 2 of them were already moving past me, crouching beside the creature. One had a medical kit. The other had some kind of scanning device, sweeping it over the creature's body, reading data on a handheld screen. A third man approached me. Tall, broad-shouldered, older, maybe 50. His face was obscured by the respirator, but his eyes were hard, cold. "Name," he said. "Marcus. Marcus Webb. I'm a truck driver. I was just..." "License and registration." I fumbled for my wallet, hands shaking. He took it, scanned my license with a small device, then handed it back. "Mr. Webb," he said slowly, "you've just been involved in a classified incident. Do you understand what that means?" No. I don't. "It means you didn't see anything tonight. It means you hit a bear. Maybe an elk. But you kept driving because you were tired, and you didn't want the paperwork. You understand." I stared at him. "That's not. You understand?" His voice dropped, quieter now, but infinitely more dangerous. I looked past him at the creature, at the men in hazmat suits crouched around it, checking vitals, inserting in 4-line, speaking into radios in low, clipped tones. "What is that?" I whispered. The man's expression didn't change. "Nothing you need to know about." It talked to me. Silence. His eyes narrowed. "You're mistaken." I heard it. It said, "You're mistaken, Mr. Webb." He stepped closer. "And if you ever repeat that, to anyone ever, you'll be arrested under the National Security Act. You'll be charged with espionage. You'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison where nobody will ever find you. Do you understand now?" My mouth went dry. Behind him, the other men were lifting the creature onto a stretcher, carefully, almost gently. It groaned again, softer now, and one of the medics adjusted the 4-drip. "Is it going to be okay?" I asked. The man in front of me didn't answer. "Get in your truck," he said. "Drive away. Forget this night ever happened." "But..." "Now, Mr. Webb." I don't remember walking back to the cab. I don't remember starting the engine or pulling back onto the highway. My hands moved on autopilot, shifting gears, accelerating, watching the black SUVs shrink in my mirrors until they disappeared into the night. I drove for 2 hours without stopping. And the whole time, all I could think about was the look in its eyes. And the word it had said. Hurts. I didn't sleep for 3 days. I finished the delivery to Oklahoma City on fumes, pure adrenaline and terror keeping me upright. I dropped the load, signed the paperwork, and drove straight home to Albuquerque without filing my logs. I violated every DOT regulation in the book, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be home. I wanted to be around people I knew. I wanted to feel normal again. But nothing felt normal. My wife, David, knew something was wrong the moment I walked through the door. We'd been together for 9 years by then, married for 6, and he could read me better than anyone. He took one look at my face and put down the coffee he was making. "Marcus," he said quietly. "What happened?" I opened my mouth, closed it. The words were right there, pressing against my teeth, desperate to come out. I hit something on Route 66. It talked to me. Men in hazmat suits took it away and threatened to disappear me if I ever told anyone. But all I heard was that man's voice, cold and flat and utterly certain. "You'll spend the rest of your life in a federal prison where nobody will ever find you." "Nothing," I said. Long drive. I'm just tired. David didn't believe me. But he also knew better than to push when I was like this. He kissed my forehead, told me to take a shower and get some sleep, and went back to grading papers. He was a high school English teacher. Patient, steady, the exact opposite of me in all the best ways. I stood in the shower until the water ran cold, scrubbing my skin raw, trying to wash away the smell of sagebrush and diesel and that musky, wild scent that I swore still clung to my clothes. But I couldn't wash away the memory. Those eyes. That voice. The way the creature had looked at me, not with animal fear, but with something deeper. Something that felt almost like resignation. Like it had known this would happen. Like it had been through this before. The paranoia started small. A car parked across the street that I didn't recognize. The same black sedan, 3 days in a row, always with tinted windows. A man in a suit at the grocery store who seemed to be following me down the aisles, always 2 rows over, never making eye contact. Clicks and strange echoes on the phone line when I called dispatch. I told myself I was imagining it. I told myself it was just stress, just exhaustion, just the mind playing tricks after a traumatic experience. But then my laptop started acting weird. Programs opening on their own. The webcam light flickering on at odd hours. Files I didn't remember downloading appearing in my folders. I covered the webcam with tape. I stopped using my phone except for emergencies. I started paying for everything in cash. David noticed. Of course he noticed. "Marcus, you're scaring me," he said on the 5th night, watching me check the locks on the windows for the 3rd time. "Talk to me, please." "I can't," I said. "Can't or won't?" "Can't." He stared at me for a long moment, hurt and confusion written all over his face. Then he went to bed without another word. I stayed up, sitting in the dark living room, watching the street through a gap in the curtains. The black sedan was gone, but a white van had taken its place. The envelope showed up in my mailbox on a Tuesday morning. No postage. No return address. Just my name, Marcus Webb, written in neat, blocky handwriting on a plain manila envelope. I opened it standing in the driveway, hands shaking. Inside was a single photograph. It was me, crouched beside the creature on Route 66, the flashlight beam illuminating its face. The image was grainy, shot from a distance, but crystal clear, and written across the bottom in black marker. "We need to talk." Beneath that, a phone number. I stood there for 5 full minutes, staring at that photo, feeling the world tilt beneath my feet. Someone had been watching. Someone had been there, hidden in the dark, close enough to take this picture while I was kneeling beside a dying Sasquatch and men in hazmat suits were 30 feet away. And whoever it was, they wanted to meet. I went inside, locked the door, sat at the kitchen table and stared at the photo and the number for another 20 minutes. Then I grabbed my old burner phone, the one I kept in the junk drawer for emergencies, and dialed. It rang twice. A man's voice answered. Come. Measured. Mid-40s, maybe older. "Mr. Webb. Thank you for calling. Who is this?" "Someone who knows what you saw on October 28th. Someone who knows you've been watched since that night. And someone who can help you understand what you've gotten tangled up in, if you're willing to listen." My heart was pounding. "How do you know?" "Meet me," the voice interrupted. "Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. There's a rest area off I-25, 40 miles south of Albuquerque. Old Route 85 turnoff. Come alone. Don't bring your phone. Don't tell anyone. Why should I trust you?" A pause. "Because if I worked for them, Mr. Webb, you'd already be gone." The line went dead. I almost didn't go. I spent the entire next day talking myself out of it. This was insane. This was how people disappeared. This was exactly the kind of setup that ended with a body in the desert and a missing persons report that never got solved. But I also couldn't stop thinking about the creature. About its eyes. About the word it had spoken. Hurts. And I couldn't stop thinking about the men in hazmat suits, and the cold, mechanical way they'd threatened me, and the fact that I'd been living under surveillance ever since. If someone knew the truth, if someone could explain what the hell I'd stumbled into, wasn't that worth the risk? David was working late, grading finals. I left him a note saying I was going for a drive to clear my head. It wasn't entirely a lie. I took the old pickup instead of the rig. I left my phone at home. And at 8:30 p.m., I headed south on I-25 into the dark. The rest area was deserted when I arrived. Just a cracked parking lot, a couple of broken picnic tables, and a cinder-block bathroom that hadn't been maintained in a decade. A single buzzing streetlight cast sickly yellow light across the asphalt. I parked near the entrance, engine running, ready to bolt if anything felt wrong. A minute later, headlights appeared from the south. A dusty Jeep Cherokee, older model, no front plate. It pulled into the lot and parked 3 spaces away. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out. He was tall, lean, maybe 50 years old. Graying hair cropped short, weathered face, sharp eyes. He wore jeans, a flannel shirt, and a canvas jacket. He moved like someone who'd spent time in the military, controlled, deliberate, constantly scanning his surroundings. He walked toward my truck, hands visible, non-threatening. I rolled down the window halfway. "Marcus Webb?" he asked. "Who are you?" "You can call me Cole." He stopped a few feet from the truck. "I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not with the government. And I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to tell you the truth, because you deserve to know it." "The truth about what?" "About what you hit on Route 66. About the people who took it. And about what's been happening in this country for the last 60 years. I stared at him. "You're serious. Deadly." He reached into his jacket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a thick folder. He held it up so I could see it, then set it on the hood of my truck. "Everything's in there. Photos. Documents. Testimonies from people like you. People who've seen them, interacted with them, and then been silenced. I've spent 15 years compiling this. I was a wildlife biologist with the Forest Service until I stumbled onto something I wasn't supposed to see. Since then, I've been tracking the truth." "Why me?" I asked. "Why reach out now?" "Because you're different," Cole said. "Most people who encounter them either don't survive, or they're too scared to ask questions. But you stopped. You tried to help. That tells me you're someone who might actually give a damn about what happens next." He stepped back, giving me space. "Read the file. If you want to know more, meet me here again in 3 days. Same time. If not, burn it and forget we ever met." "And the people watching me?" I asked. Cole's expression darkened. "They'll keep watching. But they won't move unless you give them a reason. So don't. Stay quiet. Stay low. And for God's sake, don't go digging on your own." He turned and walked back to his Jeep. "Wait," I called. "The one I hit, is it alive?" Cole paused, hand on the driver's door. He looked back at me, and for the first time, I saw something sad in his eyes. "I don't know," he said quietly. "They don't exactly issue press releases." Then he got in the Jeep and drove away. I didn't go home. I drove to a 24-hour diner on the outskirts of Albuquerque, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and opened the folder in a back booth where no one could see. What I read over the next 3 hours shattered everything I thought I knew about the world. The folder was organized into sections, each one more disturbing than the last. Dozens of reports, dating back to the 1950s. Loggers, hikers, hunters, park rangers, all describing encounters with large, bipedal creatures in remote wilderness areas. Most of the reports were dismissed as hoaxes or misidentifications. But some weren't. Buried in the file were declassified memos from the U.S. Forest Service, Department of the Interior, and, chillingly, the Department of Defense. Memos discussing unknown primate sightings, containment protocols, and national security implications. One memo, dated 1967, referenced a live capture event in Northern California. The creature had been transported to an undisclosed facility for study. It had died in captivity after 6 weeks. In 1972, according to Cole's documents, the federal government established a classified program under the Department of Defense, Project Silent Echo. Its mission: to monitor, study, and suppress all evidence of what they called undocumented megafauna species, specifically the creatures we call Sasquatch. The program operated in secret, coordinating with the Forest Service, National Park Service, and local law enforcement to intercept reports, confiscate evidence, and silence witnesses. The reasoning, according to an internal memo from 1975, was simple: public acknowledgement of an intelligent non-human species within U.S. borders presents unacceptable risks to national security, public order, and economic stability. In other words, if people knew Bigfoot was real, and that the government had been hiding it for decades, there would be chaos. This was the section that made my hands shake. Cole had compiled a list of confirmed captures, incidents where the creatures had been taken into custody, either dead or alive. There were 18 documented cases between 1972 and 2014. Most had died in captivity. A few had been released after study. 2 had escaped. And 1, a juvenile female captured in Washington in 1998, had been held for over a decade at a facility in Nevada. She'd learned to communicate. Not spoken language, but sign language. The researchers had taught her ASL, and she'd mastered over 200 signs. She'd told them about her family, about their way of life, about the forests they'd lost, the places they could no longer go, the slow extinction they were facing. And then, in 2011, the program had been shut down. The files didn't say why, just that all active subjects were to be transferred and the facility decommissioned. Cole had written in the margin, "Transferred equals killed." The final section was the hardest to read. It contained testimonies from researchers, field agents, and whistleblowers who'd worked with Project Silent Echo. One testimony, from a former DoD biologist named Dr. Alan Renner, was 11 pages long. He described the creatures in detail, their biology, their intelligence, their social structures. He called them Gigantopithecus cognatus, a species of great ape that had evolved in parallel with humans, developing tool use, language, and culture in isolation. They weren't monsters. They weren't animals. They were people. Another branch of the human family tree. Hidden, hunted, dying, and we'd known for decades. Dr. Renner's testimony ended with a single line: "We had a chance to make first contact with another intelligent species. Instead, we chose extermination." I closed the folder. My coffee was cold. The diner was empty except for a tired waitress wiping down tables. Outside, the sky was starting to lighten with the first pale glow of dawn. I thought about the creature on Route 66. The way it had looked at me. The way it had spoken. Hurts. And I thought about the men in hazmat suits, and the cold efficiency with which they'd taken it away. Where was it now? Was it alive? Was it locked in some underground facility, alone and terrified? Or was it already dead? I didn't know. But I knew I couldn't just walk away. I met Cole again 3 nights later. Same rest area. Same time. This time, I brought questions. "How many are left?" I asked. Cole leaned against his jeep, arms crossed. "Hard to say. Maybe a few hundred. Maybe less. They're scattered, Pacific Northwest, Rockies, Appalachians. Small family groups. They avoid humans, but habitat loss keeps pushing them closer. More encounters. More captures. And the government just keeps covering it up?" "They don't have a choice," Cole said grimly. "Imagine the fallout. Environmental lawsuits. Indigenous rights claims. Religious upheaval. Panic. They've invested too much in the lie to let it collapse now. So what do we do?" Cole studied me for a long moment. "We don't do anything, Marcus. You go home. You live your life. You forget about this." "I can't." "You have to." "I can't," I repeated louder this time. I hit that thing. I looked it in the eyes. I heard it. And now you're telling me there's a whole species being hunted to extinction, and nobody's doing anything about it. What do you think you can do? Cole asked quietly. You go public, they'll bury you. You push too hard, you'll end up in a cell, or worse. Then what's the point of telling me any of this? Cole sighed, rubbed his face. I don't know, he admitted. Maybe I just needed someone else to know the truth. Maybe I'm tired of carrying it alone. We stood in silence for a moment. Then Cole pushed off the jeep. There's one more thing, he said. The creature you hit. I made some calls. Pulled some favors with old contacts. My heart skipped. And it's alive. They took it to a facility in Colorado. Some kind of research black site run by DoD and Interior. I don't know much more than that. Can we? No, Cole said flatly. We can't. That place is locked down tighter than Area 51. You go anywhere near it, you're done. But, Marcus. His voice was firm now, almost pleading. Let it go. I know you feel responsible. I know you want to help. But there's nothing you can do. I stared at him. Then I got in my truck and drove away. But Cole was wrong about one thing. There was something I could do. I became obsessed. David noticed first. He always did. He'd find me up at 3 a.m., hunched over my laptop, maps and documents spread across the kitchen table. He'd ask what I was doing, and I'd tell him I was planning a new route, researching delivery schedules, anything but the truth. The truth was, I was trying to find the facility. Cole had said Colorado. DoD and Interior. A black site. That narrowed it down, but not by much. Colorado had dozens of military installations, research centers, and federal lands where something like this could be hidden. I started with the obvious places. NORAD. Peterson Air Force Base. Fort Carson. But none of them felt right. Too visible. Too public. Then I found it. Buried in a list of decommissioned Forest Service research stations, I found a reference to Alpine Station 7, a remote wildlife research facility in the San Juan Mountains, supposedly shut down in 2003. But when I cross-referenced it with satellite imagery, the buildings were still there. And the access road had been recently maintained. I dug deeper. Property records showed the land had been transferred to a shell company with ties to a DoD contractor. Power usage for the area was classified. And in 2012, a local hiking forum had a post from someone who'd gotten turned around near the station and been escorted out by armed security claiming they were protecting endangered species research. The post had been deleted within 24 hours. That was it. That had to be it. I didn't tell Cole. I knew he'd try to stop me. And maybe he'd be right. Maybe this was insane. Maybe I was throwing my life away on a creature I'd known for less than 5 minutes. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw those eyes staring back at me. I heard that single, broken word. Hurts. And I couldn't let it go. It took me 3 weeks to plan. 3 weeks of studying maps, memorizing patrol patterns from satellite footage, and gathering supplies. I told David I was taking a solo camping trip to clear my head. He didn't believe me, but he also knew better than to push. Just come back safe, he said when I left. Whatever you're doing, please, Marcus, come back safe. I promised I would. I didn't know if I could keep that promise. I drove into the San Juans on a Sunday in late November. Early winter, cold enough that most of the high-altitude trails were closed, but not so snowed in that the roads were impassable. Alpine Station 7 sat at the end of a 15-mile dirt road, deep in a valley surrounded by spruce forest and granite peaks. According to the satellite imagery, it consisted of 4 buildings, 2 large structures that looked like labs or dormitories, a smaller administrative building, and what appeared to be a garage or storage facility. The perimeter was fenced. 12-foot chain link topped with barbed wire. Security cameras at the gate and corners. At least 2 guards visible during daytime hours. I wasn't getting in through the front door. I parked my truck 8 miles away, at an abandoned logging camp, and hiked in on foot. I carried a backpack with basic supplies: water, protein bars, bolt cutters, a handheld radio scanner, binoculars, and my .38 revolver, which I prayed I wouldn't need to use. The hike took 4 hours. Slow, careful, staying off the main trail. By the time I reached the ridgeline overlooking the facility, the sun was setting, and the temperature had dropped below freezing. I settled into a position behind a cluster of boulders and glassed the compound with my binoculars. 2 guards at the front gate, both armed. Another guard patrolling the perimeter every 30 minutes. Lights on in the larger buildings. A generator humming in the distance. And then I saw something that made my breath catch. In the yard between the 2 main buildings, there was a large enclosure. Chain-link walls, reinforced with steel beams, maybe 20 feet on each side. It was open to the sky, no roof, just bare dirt and a few scattered logs. And inside, sitting with its back against the far wall, was the creature. Even from 200 yards away, I recognized it. The size. The dark fur. The way it sat, hunched, shoulders slumped, head bowed. It looked defeated. I waited until midnight. The guards changed shifts at 10 p.m. The new crew seemed less alert, bored, cold, focused more on staying warm than watching the perimeter. The patrol intervals stretched from 30 minutes to 45. I moved down the ridge slowly, using the tree line for cover, until I reached the western edge of the fence. No cameras on this side. Too many trees blocking the line of sight. I pulled out the bolt cutters and went to work on the chain link. It took 15 minutes. My hands were numb, my breath fogging in the freezing air, every snap of the wire making me flinch. But finally, I had a gap big enough to squeeze through. I slipped inside and moved toward the enclosure. The facility was quiet. The only sounds were the hum of the generator and the occasional crackle of a radio from the guard shack. The main buildings had lights on, but the windows were covered. I couldn't see inside. The enclosure was 50 yards ahead. I stayed low, moving between shadows, my heart hammering so hard I thought the guards would hear it. And then I was there, crouched beside the chain-link wall, looking up at the creature inside. It was massive up close. Even sitting, it was taller than me. The fur was matted and dirty, and I could see scars along its arms and chest, some old, some fresh. Its breathing was slow and labored. And then it turned its head and looked directly at me. Those eyes. The same eyes from Route 66. Recognition flickered across its face. "Hey," I whispered. "Hey, it's me. From the road. Do you remember?" The creature stared at me for a long moment. Then, slowly, it nodded. My throat tightened. "I'm so sorry," I said. "I didn't mean to hit you. I didn't see." It raised one massive hand. A gesture. "Stop." Then it spoke. The same low, guttural voice. But clearer this time. Deliberate. "I know." Tears stung my eyes. "Are you okay? Did they hurt you?" The creature looked down at its hands. At the scars. At the chain-link walls surrounding it. "They study," it said slowly. "Take blood. And questions." It paused, struggling with the words. "Hurt? Inside. I'm going to get you out of here," I said. "I don't know how yet, but I'm going to." "No." I stopped. "What?" The creature met my eyes again. There was something ancient in that gaze. Something sad and knowing. "No escape," it said. "They always find. Always take." "Then what do we do?" It was quiet for a long time. Then it reached into the dirt beside it and picked up a small object. A rock, smooth and round. It held it up to the light. "My son," it said softly, "gave me. Before." "Before what?" "Before they take him too." My stomach dropped. "Your son is here?" The creature shook its head. "Gone. Long time." It closed its hand around the rock. "They take all of us. One by one." "How many?" I whispered. It looked at me. And for the first time, I saw something like despair in those eyes. Not many left. A flashlight beam swept across the yard. I dropped flat against the ground, heart exploding in my chest. Thought I saw something by the containment unit. A guard's voice. Close. Maybe 30 feet away. The creature looked down at me, then deliberately stood up and moved to the opposite side of the enclosure, drawing attention away from my position. It's just the subject, another voice called. Probably heard a coyote or something. They get restless at night. Yeah, maybe. The flashlight beam swept past again, slower this time. I pressed myself into the shadows, barely breathing. The footsteps moved closer. Stopped 10 feet from where I was hiding. You see anything? Nah. Just the big guy pacing. Come on, it's freezing. Let's finish the perimeter and get back inside. Copy that. The footsteps retreated. I waited 5 full minutes before moving. Then I looked back up at the creature. It was watching me. Waiting. I have to go, I whispered. But I'm coming back. I promise. I'm going to find a way to help you. The creature tilted its head. Then, slowly, it made a gesture, pressing one hand to its chest, then extending it toward me. I didn't understand at first. Then it spoke again, softer this time. Thank you for stop. For see. My vision blurred. I won't forget you. I swear. It nodded once, then turned away. I slipped back through the fence and disappeared into the trees. I made it back to my truck by dawn. I was shaking, from cold, from adrenaline, from everything I'd seen and heard. I'd found the creature. I'd spoken to it. And I'd learned the truth. This wasn't just one individual. This was a species being systematically hunted, captured, and erased. And nobody knew. Nobody cared. I drove home in a daze. When I walked through the door, David was waiting in the kitchen, arms crossed, face pale. Where were you? He asked quietly. Don't lie to me, Marcus. Not anymore. I looked at him. At the man I'd loved for 9 years. The man I'd been lying to for weeks. And I told him everything. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he just sat there, staring at me. You broke into a federal facility, he said finally. Yes. You could go to prison. Yes. And you're going to do it again, aren't you? I didn't answer. David closed his eyes. Jesus, Marcus. I can't just leave it there, I said. I can't. I know. He opened his eyes. They were wet. I know you can't. That's what scares me. He stood, walked over, and pulled me into a tight hug. Promise me something, he whispered. Promise me you'll be careful. Promise me you won't do this alone. I promise. I called Cole the next day. Told him everything. He was silent for a long time. You're insane, he said finally. You know that, right? Probably. They're going to come for you. They're going to destroy your life. I know. Another long silence. What do you want to do? Cole asked. Go public, I said. All of it. The file. The facility. The testimony. Everything. They'll bury it. Call it fake news. Conspiracy theory garbage. Maybe, I said. But maybe not. Maybe if enough people hear it, if enough people see the evidence, something will change. Cole sighed. You really believe that? I have to. It took 3 months to prepare. Cole connected me with a journalist, someone he trusted, someone with a track record of taking on the federal government and winning. Her name was Ben Alvarez, and he worked for a major investigative outlet. We gave him everything. The files. The photos. My testimony. Cole's research. Satellite imagery of Alpine Station 7. Ben spent weeks verifying, cross-referencing, reaching out to sources. And then, on a cold morning in March 2015, the story went live. The hidden species. Inside the government's secret war on America's last Sasquatch. It exploded. Within 24 hours, it was the top story on every news site. Within 48 hours, Congress was calling for hearings. Within a week, the DoD issued a formal denial, but the damage was done. People were asking questions. Scientists were demanding access. Indigenous groups were filing lawsuits. And I was in hiding. The government came for me, just like Cole said they would. Federal agents showed up at my house with a warrant. They seized my laptop, my files, my truck. They charged me with trespassing on federal property, unlawful surveillance, and violating the Espionage Act. David stood by me through all of it. Hired a lawyer. Mortgaged the house to pay for my defense. The trial lasted 6 months. In the end, the espionage charges were dropped, too much public scrutiny. But I was convicted of trespassing and sentenced to 2 years probation. It could have been worse. The real victory came 18 months after the story broke. Under immense public pressure, and facing a dozen lawsuits from environmental and indigenous groups, the Department of the Interior announced the creation of the North American Megafauna Protection Act. It designated 47 million acres of federal wilderness as protected habitat. It banned all lethal force against undocumented primate species. And it established a civilian oversight committee to monitor any future encounters. It wasn't perfect. The creatures, Gigantopithecus cognatus, as the scientists now called them, were still endangered. Still hidden. Still dying. But it was a start. 2 years after the story broke, I got a call from Ben Alvarez. "They're shutting down Alpine Station 7, he said. "Decommissioning it for real this time. Relocating the subjects to a sanctuary in Montana." "Subjects?" I asked. "Plural. 3 of them. Including the one you met." My heart skipped. "Is it alive?" Ben said. "And asking for you. They let me visit. Just once. Under supervision." The creature was in a large, naturalistic enclosure now. Trees, a stream, open sky. Not freedom, but better than a chain-link cage. It was standing near the fence when I arrived, watching me approach. I stopped a few feet away, tears already streaming down my face. "Hey," I said. The creature looked at me for a long moment. Then it reached into a pouch at its side and pulled out the smooth stone, the one its son had given it. It held it up. Then, slowly, extended it toward me. "For you," it said. Remember." I took the stone. My hands were shaking. "I'll never forget," I whispered. "I promise." The creature nodded. Then it turned and walked back into the trees, disappearing into the shadows. I never saw it again. It's been 11 years since that night on Route 66. The Sasquatch, Gigantopithecus cognatus, are still out there. Still hidden. Still fewer than 200 individuals, according to the latest surveys. But they're not being hunted anymore. They're not being captured and disappeared into black sites. They're being protected, studied, respected. It's not enough. It may never be enough. But it's something. I kept the stone. It sits on my desk now, smooth and worn, a reminder of a choice I made on a cold October night. I could have driven away. I could have stayed silent. I could have forgotten. But I didn't. And because I didn't, one creature lived. And maybe, just maybe, an entire species has a chance. David says I'm a hero. Cole says I'm a damn fool. I think I'm just a truck driver who hit something on Route 66 and decided to stop. Sometimes, that's all it takes. Sometimes, stopping is enough.